Just last month, NASA launched 4 astronauts into space. The whole world cheered. But what most people don't realize is that they won't actually set foot on the moon. Not even once. After 54 years and nearly $100 billion invested, NASA built the most powerful rocket in human history. Only to fly around the moon and come back. And it gets even crazier. Shortly after launch, the spacecraft's toilet malfunctioned. So today, let's talk about why this rocket is considered the most powerful ever built, and why it's seen as America's best chance to return to the moon and eventually reach Mars. To answer that, we need to go back more than 50 years. Did you know that between 1968 and 1972, the United States carried out 9 crewed lunar missions? 6 of them successfully landed on the moon. 12 people walked on its surface. And then, it all stopped. For the next 54 years, no human traveled beyond Earth's orbit. So what does this new mission really mean? Just think about that for a moment. With that perspective in mind, let's meet the star of the mission. The spacecraft carrying the astronauts is called Orion. It consists of 3 major components. The crew capsule where the astronauts live. The service module that provides power and life support. And a launch abort system designed solely to save lives. This escape system has one job. If something goes wrong during launch, it can pull the entire crew capsule away from the rocket in a fraction of a second. Even if the rocket beneath them is exploding, its mission is to get the astronauts out alive. Sending Orion into space is the Space Launch System, or SLS, the most powerful launch vehicle humanity has ever built. How powerful is it? Even the legendary Saturn V rocket that carried astronauts to the moon during the Apollo era ranks behind it in total thrust. But here's the most astonishing number. Fully fueled, the rocket weighs about 6 million pounds. Of that, roughly 5.2 million pounds is fuel. That means 86% of the most powerful rocket ever built is essentially propellant. It's like a gigantic firecracker filled almost entirely with fuel, standing silently on the launch pad. The moment it's ignited, it begins burning itself apart in exchange for the power needed to escape Earth. At liftoff, 4 RS-25 main engines and 2 massive solid rocket boosters ignite simultaneously. The ground shakes. The sound waves are powerful enough to rattle everything nearby. There's a saying that perfectly describes the moment. Once the engines ignite, no one can stop what happens next. 2 minutes later, the boosters burn out and separate. 8 minutes after launch, the core stage completes its job and detaches. The spacecraft enters Earth orbit. The astronauts carefully inspect every onboard system. Mission control confirms everything is functioning normally. Then comes the next command. The engine fires again. Orion breaks free of Earth's gravity and officially begins its journey to the moon. Several days later, the spacecraft approaches lunar space. And here's something most people don't know. The biggest difference between Artemis and Apollo isn't that the rocket is more powerful. It's that the entire strategy has changed. Apollo was essentially a temporary expedition. Astronauts flew to the moon, planted a flag, conducted experiments, and came home. Artemis is built around long-term infrastructure. Before astronauts arrive, lunar rovers, scientific instruments, supplies, and equipment can be delivered ahead of time. Think of it like shipping your luggage to a hotel before a business trip so you can travel light. To make that strategy work, NASA plans to build a staging point in lunar orbit. It's called the Lunar Gateway. Unlike the International Space Station, which orbits Earth, Gateway will orbit the moon. Its orbit is carefully designed to provide access to nearly every region of the lunar surface, including the far side of the moon. That's something Apollo-era missions could never achieve. More importantly, the entire system serves as a rehearsal for future missions to Mars. The moon is the training ground. Mars is the ultimate goal. Once astronauts arrive at Gateway, some crew members may remain aboard the station while others transfer into a specialized lunar lander. The descent takes place in stages. First, the lander moves from a high lunar orbit into a lower orbit. Then it descends to the surface. After completing the mission, it launches back into orbit and docks with Gateway once again. Every step is designed to develop technologies and procedures needed for future Mars missions. When the lunar mission is complete, the astronauts return to Gateway, board Orion, and begin the journey home. But the most dangerous part of the mission comes right before they arrive. Orion will slam into Earth's atmosphere at nearly 40,000 kilometers per hour. The friction generates temperatures exceeding 2,700 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than lava. Hotter than the melting point of steel by a wide margin. The heat shield must survive every second of it. If it fails, nothing else matters. Then comes the final moment. The parachutes deploy. The spacecraft slows from nearly 40,000 kilometers per hour to about 32 kilometers per hour. It gently splashes down in the Pacific Ocean. Recovery crews arrive. 4 astronauts are brought home alive. And yet, the Artemis program has only completed its first major step. What's interesting is that while the United States is spending more than $90 billion validating this approach one stage at a time, China is advancing along a very different path. The American strategy relies on building infrastructure such as Gateway, testing systems gradually, and reducing risk through step-by-step verification. The trade-off is speed. A crewed lunar landing is currently expected no earlier than 2028. China's approach is different. Its plan centers on multiple launches, rendezvous and docking operations in lunar orbit, and a more direct route that eliminates the need for a lunar space station as an intermediate step. The goal is to land Chinese astronauts on the moon by around 2030. So which strategy is smarter? Which country will put astronauts on the moon first? Don't answer too quickly. The race is still unfolding, and the outcome may surprise everyone.